Hello everybody, I have started my anatomy this time. I'm going to be using some references. These may not be exact, so, I have some other references I'm using, especially for one of them being the endo that she has around her. So, last time, when I made a little bit, my thing cut out to where I needed to have more minutes to draw. Or, I don't know how to say it. It didn't cut out. I just needed more time to draw it, so. I went ahead and started with my anatomy first this time. So yeah. Yeah, so I might not even use this reference, so. Maybe for the cheeks, I don't know yet. Sorry if, you thought that it was gonna be exact. I thought so too. Then I changed my mind. It's just not what I thought it would be. So, to summarize the last video, just like as a overall ending point, I'm going to say now that because I've never drew Lolbit before, and my last video was the first time I have drew her, I would say that, I've never because I never drew her before, I have a way that I can draw her now, so now that I already have her drawn, I can draw her in a better way, now that I already have a starting off. So, like that being said, I can always make her look so much better the next time that I draw her. For this one, I'm doing a very different style for her because I'm gonna show a drawing soon, and it's gonna be the last time that I drew her, and you'll see like the big difference of what I drew her like last time versus now. This is very advanced compared to the last time because I didn't do that much the first time. I was just looking at an image and trying to draw it, and it turned out good. It turned out cute. I will pause the recording soon so I can get a picture up real quick. But for now, I continue. I think I tried drawing Endo as well for my first drawing of her, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Mangle is one of my favorite characters, just based on the fact that I tried to give Lolbit her story. I'm gonna be giving Mangle her story too. So, Mangle, she, had, just because, there's people giving their own, stories for Mangle, and I see it as more of, human and animatronic kind of thing. So, Mangle, personally, for me, grew up in, a separate home, so I don't see her as, Lolbit's family member or sibling or anything like that. Because again, like I said in the last video, I don't think just because you're a fox means that you're related to, say, Lolbit or Mangle or, whoever. So, personally, in my opinion, Lolbit Mangle grew up in, a home where they didn't have that much money. Lolbit wanted, okay, sorry. This force of habit. Mangle grew up in a home where she didn't have that much money. Very different contrasts compared to Lolbit. And, Mangle's parents did the best they could to get her whatever she needed in life. But whenever it came down to getting her things that she wanted, her parents always told her that she would have to wait until like Christmas or holidays or her birthday. And she understood that. She never expected a lot from her parents. She never felt like her parents owed her anything. She felt like she was happy with her parents. I would say that I see Mangle as like an only child, or I see her with like a sister. But I would say that her sister would not be involved in the pizzeria at all. Or I could say that her sister would probably be Funtime Foxy, unless Funtime Foxy's a boy. Which, Scott Cawthon is very confusing with the genders relating to Mangle. And so, yeah. I would say that for Mangle, she grew up, she didn't really have all that much. She was lucky with what she had. Sometimes, her parents would go through the donation bin and donate to people that don't have that much, and Mangle would get the hand-me-downs, and, some of the qualities from the hand-me-downs were really good. Some of them were decent. I think she made the most out of whatever she could. I would say that as she got older, when she was 14, she wanted a job. She wanted to work. Not because she wanted more out of her parents, but because she wanted to, give back to her parents. She wanted to help with things. And, her dad was working at a restaurant, and he worked there when she was little, and then I would say when she got older, he started working at an office that paid him like minimum wage or around minimum wage. And then her mother, on the other hand, was in school when she was little, so that was another reason that they probably didn't have that much money. She was working on getting her second degree, and the first time she was working on her degree, she was living with her parents, which would be Mangle's grandparents. So the second time, she thought that she had enough money to continue her degree, and she found out not long after that she did not have as much money as she thought. She was still new to the money aspect of, having as much as she needs, per se. And I would say that she was very lucky with what she had whenever Mangle was growing up. Mangle never knew that her mom was struggling with money. Like, she wasn't struggling in much, but it was kind of hard when it came to food on the table, I would say, because they had to buy that stuff. So I think that whenever Mangle turned 3, what they did was they started making their own little farm. So like they had like vegetables and fruits and stuff, and they had a lot of healthy food. So despite not having that much money, they bought seeds and they would, do stuff like that. So it was always the fact that they tended to the farm. So whenever Mangle got older and she turned like 5, she watched her parents kind of work on the farm, and she said that she wanted to help out. She was the type of child that she wanted to help her parents whenever they're doing stuff, and it really contributed and helped out for her parents because, with her parents working, her mom worked like an 8 to 4 job. Her dad worked a 9 to 5 job. So, whenever they tended to the farm, they were already tired. Not completely, but tired from working and everything. Sometimes they didn't have that much to do, and they found ways to deal with the farm, even in like cold environments and stuff. Sometimes it just didn't work out during the winter, but other times it would. So I think personally Mangle just didn't know about that stuff. She just thought that the farm was another way to help get the food that they wanted, not knowing that that was actually what helped every part of the food aspect growing up. She was oblivious to a lot of things. She definitely was very like innocent with her childhood. So her mom never like told her that they were struggling with the bills at one point. She never told her about anything like that. I think because of the fact that Mangle was only like 6 years old too, she didn't want her daughter to freak out. She didn't want her daughter to go and tell anyone at school because she was already in school. She started around 4 years old because her mom knew the earlier she got in, the earlier she would graduate, hoping for the best for her future. Now, she went to one of those public schools that were free. But because of the fact that she was little, I would say that she pretty much had her like early school free. Her food was free. Now later on, it depends if that's free for people that are older. I'm not really sure, but I would say for Mangle personally, she didn't have to worry about school food and stuff. Whenever she got a little bit older, she would start packing her own lunch, so she didn't care for the school food. She just saw it as an option, but she wanted to make her own food. So by the time she was like 7 years old, her parents got more fortunate with food and what they could buy, so she started like making like little things, and getting like a bag of chips and like sandwiches and stuff. And then as she got older, she had more options and stuff. I don't like the ear so far. But I would say for Mangle, she was very fortunate. She was very happy. And I would say from the time that she was like 2 years old to 10 years old, she pretty much got a lot of her toys and a lot of her things from the donation bin. When it came to clothes, that was a different story because her mother took extracurricular activities or hobbies such as like sewing. So Mangle's grandma, I think, bought her first set of clothes, and then whenever it came down to other things, her her grandma already like had stuff prepared. Her mom also had stuff prepared before moving out because she knew that someday she was going to have a child, so she already had some clothes saved up. Her grandmother had clothes saved up for her when she was getting older because she knew it would happen. And what she does is she would buy things ahead of time so it doesn't have to be worried about later. So, with Mangle's parents working a lot, before Mangle got into school, I would say that Mangle pretty much, she basically was with her grandparents a lot growing up. She basically had her grandparents, like, being full-time babysitters because her grandparents were retired and they just, at the time, like, one of them, her grandparents weren't, okay, like, one of her, like, her grandma was working somewhat, but she was working towards retirement, and it wasn't until Mangle turned 6 years old that she retired. So, she was working, but her grandma was working from home. So, it's very different for her personally. And then as for her grandpa was working as well. But the difference was with the grandpa was, that scares me. So her grandpa was working like certain hours of the day. So he would be gone closer to night, and then he would come back in the day. So he pretty much took care of Mangle through most of the day whenever Mangle's parents were busy working in the day. And then he would sleep in the afternoon when his wife came home. And he would basically take care of her whenever he can. They always had plans of like figuring out how everything would work, and they planned everything ahead of time, as well as her parents. So, they always had something figured out, and her grandparents were, very family oriented. Her parents were family oriented. She spent a lot of time with her grandparents, so most of her birthdays she just wanted to spend time with her parents and her grandparents. When she was little, she had to spend time with her grandparents more than her parents because, they were trying to get money, they had to work. They couldn't just go off of not working. So unfortunately, they didn't get to spend her birthday with her until later on, I would say. So she did get to spend time with her parents, but it wasn't until after they got off work. So every time they would have like a little party that they do for her, and being that she was already in school at some point, she basically had her friends coming over, and her friends were really kind. They were really sweet to her. She was very happy because she didn't have that many friends growing up, but her friends were very sweet and kind-hearted, and her grandpa was working security, so I think that's why she wanted to go to the pizzeria when she got much older, was because she heard about nighttime jobs and stuff like that. But the difference was she wanted to work at the pizzeria during the night hours. So I would say whenever she was growing up, whenever she turned 14, she had the goal of working. And in her country, she was not able to work at 14. She was able to work the year after. So she studied to, learn how to drive so she could take herself to work within the next year. So her mother helped her with her permit, studying her permit, and she would do like flashcards and stuff like that. And then as the next year passed, she pretty much got everything she needed aside from her license, but that was fine because her mother said that what they would do is she would take her to work early, like 20-30 minutes early, because her daughter worked like an hour before her mom did, and the places weren't too far away, and if things ever changed, her dad could take her. So everybody was basically working at that point when she was older, when she was 15. And it felt nice for her because she was getting her own money, and when she started getting her own money, she started doing things like, paying for the food that her parents sometimes couldn't provide because they were in a better situation financially and started saving up more money. But Mangle would do things every now and then for her parents to just kind of contribute because she wanted to, not because she felt like she had to, but she wanted to give back to her parents. So she did as much as she could. She saved up money because she had a goal when she was little to go on vacation with her parents, so she saved a lot of money to go on vacation, and when they did, they went to like Disney, and they went to other places because I think Mangle as a kid wanted to go to Disney, but her parents said that that they couldn't afford that and that they were sorry, and she said to herself that she was going to go to Disney, but little did she know she would actually be saving up the money to go to Disney, and her parents did help with that too. They had some saved up money to help out, so whenever they went to Disney, she was able to get anything she wanted because her parents saved up that kind of money for her. Um, so that was what they did for her 16th birthday. Or no. Yeah, her 16th birthday. And it was one of the best birthdays for her because she could spend time with her parents, and then the next day she would be spending the time with her grandparents since her grandparents, couldn't go to Disney because they were working on other stuff and because of retirement getting set up. They just got to the point where they wanted to relax at home. Now, the grandpa worked from home somewhat, but yeah, by the time that she was 16, he was working from home. But Mangle remembers moments where she used to be with her grandpa whenever he was working security because she wanted to go with him. But there were some rules, obviously, like, Mangle can't go with her grandpa whenever she had school nights because she needed to focus on school and everything. But then again, there were times where he had to take her because her parents were busy with other things. Because sometimes their friends would want to hang out, and their friends would say, like, you never had the time with me to hang out. And not only that, but just being busy with work. So, yeah, I think that personally, they had to balance out the time. They had to find time for everything that they did. And, Mangle's parents would often ask her if it's okay if you were with your grandpa until, like, say, a few days or something like that. So sometimes, she wouldn't even return home. She would be with her grandparents. So she would be with her grandparents from early in the day to at night, sometimes to 3 nights. But her parents always like found ways to like visit, but it just got to the point that she practically lived with her grandparents even when she was little. So she felt like she had two homes. She felt like she lived with her parents, but she felt like she lived with her grandparents. So, it wasn't until she was getting older and she already had some money saved ahead of time when she was 17 that, her grandparents, they both had retired completely, and they were very loving, and they spent a lot of retirement with her since they also knew that her mom would be busy and her dad would be busy. So they spent a lot of time with her, but the best part about it was um her parents made a lot of time work out since they were working so much. They had free time to spend that time with her. And Mango was very happy because she loved spending time with her grandparents. She loved spending time with her grandparents as well. So, for her, she spent a lot of time with both. When it came to her school life growing up, she often talked to her friends about her grandparents and her parents and how her grandpa has been such a role model and her grandma has been such a role model because of the fact that her grandparents planned ahead and they did a lot of things for Mangle and her parents growing up. as Mangle got older, though, when she turned 18 years old, she found Fazbear's Pizza, FNAF 2, and she wanted to work there. And it was just in time that when she had turned 18, they already had FNAF 2 out, or Fazbear's Pizza, if you want to call it that, and she worked there for a few years. She loved it. She loved, like performing and entertaining kids. She always wanted like a little sibling when she was growing up, so she saw the kids as her little siblings or even as if they were her own kids because she was, very family oriented. She always wanted younger kids to play with, and as she got older and she was 18 years old, she started thinking about her own life. She started thinking that when she found the right person for her and she found the right guy, she would go and, you know, set things aside and start focusing on their future and everything. And her grandparents were very happy for her with the life that she had and everything. Now, Mangle did give up her job working as a waitress whenever she was 16. She was working there until she was about 18 because of the job at the pizzeria. She basically asked her grandparents to take her since they were retired and they didn't have any problem with taking her since they were already retired as well. But also because of the fact that her grandparents were not busy with anything and they wanted to support her wholeheartedly, and with her parents being as busy as they were, she thought that she should ask her grandparents. Like, her parents would say, like, I'm sorry, like, I can't take you. You could probably ask your grandparents if they can. So, a lot of the times she would ask her grandparents, and her grandparents would say, yes, we can take you. Mangle was a well-behaved kid growing up as well. And, again, like I said, for Lolbit, she was best friends with Lolbit. She met Lolbit when she was 18, and at the time, Lolbit was 19. So, Lolbit had started a year early, and just within the span of 2 years, Lolbit's original pizzeria got shut down, and Mangle started working with her when Lolbit transferred to Fredbear's Pizza, which is the second one in this story. Because it was Freddy's Pizzeria for the first, and it was Fredbear's Pizza for the second. And, they were working together. They often performed together and even took shifts for one another since they were best friends, and their boss was more than fine with stuff like that happening. They've done it so many times before. Lolbit actually met her through work. So whenever Lolbit lost her job to the first one, Mangle recommended her to Fredbear's Pizza, and her boss said, sure, why not? So, yeah, they became co-workers, but originally Mangle had visited her job, her first job that Lolbit was working at. So, or technically second, because Lolbit grew up and working in like fast food and stuff. And Mangle did too, in a way, but they never met through that kind of stuff. They were in different places and they hadn't met yet. Now, Mangle did meet Foxy, however, in the second one, and I would say that Lolbit was already friends with Foxy. He was very kind, he was very sweet to Lolbit, and they met. Actually, I would say that Lolbit was happy whenever she was also able to work with Foxy again, because Foxy also lost his job, but the difference was um, Fredbear's Pizza wanted Foxy to work with them after he lost his job, and he said sure, why not? And ever since then, and the job offer stood, he started attending regularly. He loved the job even more than the first one, though he really liked both jobs. He didn't want to compare both jobs. He liked entertaining kids with his usual pirate shenanigans and stuff that he did, and they loved hearing him sing "You are a do what you want 'cause a pirate is free." The "You are a pirate" one that I grew up listening to. They often tried to, dress up in pirate costumes. The kids would, and Lolbit and Mangle loved it. One time Mangle went in and did it as a joke to see the kids' reactions, and Foxy was very surprised, but he loved it because he felt like Mangle was one of his biggest supporters other than Lolbit and his family. So, yeah, that's basically the story that I have for Mangle so far. I would say that Mangle had been different than Lolbit. She took many jobs relating to Fazbear's Pizza and pizzerias. Now, I'm not saying that Lolbit didn't have as many options. She did. But Mangle was in more of the games than Lolbit, from what I'm understanding. So I feel like Mangle had more job opportunities. So she told her grandpa too about all of her job stuff that she done, and she would tell her grandpa how she was very happy because she wasn't doing the same thing all the time. All of the pizzerias that she worked in were different in their own way, and she always had like friends that she met and really kind-hearted people, and her coworkers were like her closest friends, because Mangle didn't have that many friends growing up, and most of the kids that she knew as she was younger, they just got out of touch. They didn't, get to talk to her because they didn't have phones when they were little, and Mangle only had a phone when she was little because of the fact that she was often with her grandparents, and because her mom had to call her and see how she was doing. But then again, Mangle didn't have a phone until she was 9 years old, so it just didn't, it wasn't a need, it wasn't a necessary thing. And because her grandparents were always watching over her, her parents knew she was safe, but it was also because her daughter was, going to school, and, sometimes things happen within school, so they felt like this was for the better that she had a phone, just so in case she needed anything, she would have one. So yeah, Mangle was very strong. She, later on in life, when she was like, I would say 22 or 23, her parents would tell her about all the stuff that she was never that they were never able to tell her back then. And she felt very empathetic when it came to her parents and what they struggled with when Mangle was little. And she wished that she could do anything she could back then, but she knows she was too little, and her parents said that, she wasn't responsible for all of that. They basically told her that it was okay because they were figuring out stuff too. They were figuring out their financial life and what they needed to do and stuff like that. And Mangle became very understanding to why they had the issues they had. So I think that it may have taken time for her to understand, but she did understand why. As Mangle had a lot of jobs that she was working, she stayed with her parents for a good bit of years, honestly, because she didn't get to spend that much time with them when they were busy working. So yeah, she, stayed with her parents a lot of the times because she said that she wanted to take care of her parents for as long as she could. So with the constant job opportunities that she had, she took care of her parents to the best of her ability as she could. She was very family oriented. She spent a lot of time with her family. Whenever Lolbit and her became best friends, Lolbit would visit her parents. Lolbit would say they're like her second family. So they very much felt like sisters and best friends. Like, they were best friends, but they felt like sisters as well. If if her grandparents and her parents got busy, Lolbit would offer to take Mangle to work for them. And Lolbit was one of those friends that the parents and the grandparents would say, like, "Oh, it's you," like, and refer to her as, like, family, and always include her in family activities and stuff. I would say that's pretty much my story for Mangle and Lolbit. Now, these can be added on and changed to later as I include more characters, but I would rather wait until then. But I know that Marionette is gonna definitely be involved with their stories. So yeah, I really like this design for Mangle. I'm surprised with how much layers I have in a way. But this has not taken me anywhere near the amount of time that the other one took me. This has definitely taken longer. It's definitely taken me more than 43 minutes because I did a lot of this stuff off camera so I could get a feel for what I was doing. So yeah, this is the final design for Mangle. I really like her design. I've worked, very hard on it. Usually my drawings have been, say, like 30 minutes being the low effort, 40 minutes being a higher effort, because usually my drawings take about an hour. Sometimes they take an hour and 35 minutes or longer. Sometimes even an hour and 20 minutes. But yeah, I would say that I really like drawing her. I put a lot of effort into this compared to my first drawing of Mangle, which I will show in a moment. But this is my favorite drawing so far of Mangle. It's definitely one of the best drawings I've made. I'm gonna get the picture up. So this is my first drawing of Mangle. This is back in 20